welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom, and we are going to be talking Morbius, and I'm joined by a guest reviewer, Guy, my brother. Say hello, Guy.
Hello, nice to see you.
So we are talking about Morbius, which of course is the latest Marvel movie, albeit a Sony one, that stars Jared Leto and Matt Smith. So based on a Marvel comic who originally was a Spider-Man antagonist, created, I believe, to be a living vampire, to get around the comics code, to have undead vampires in there. And he's kind of evolved to be somewhat of a kind of a hero slash anti-hero. So this is kind of an origin story. Won't go too much into the plot, we'll kind of avoid spoilers. Now, I will say I think this is a comparable movie to like the original Ghost Rider movie. It kind of feels, it's somewhat similar to that in a lot of ways, and it's kind of like somewhat older style of kind of comic book movie before they really kind of, found their kind of path in the MCU. That's not to say without its kind of merits though. And first of all, we'll go through the positives and we'll kind of look at what we liked and then maybe what we didn't like. So Guy, what did you think? What did you like about it first of all? Any kind of major points?
Yeah, I thought it was quite fast paced at the start. It wasn't slow. It started off quite well. It was quite engaging. I thought the special effects were quite good. I liked the sensory effects.
Yeah.
The vampire effects look very good actually. I thought they looked really good like vampires. It's a little bit CGI in some places, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, on the subject of, one of the things I was a little nervous about going into this movie, because it hasn't got good reviews, and I've seen it kind of a few days after it was released. I don't know, it's like all the CGI kind of vampire effects, I thought they would be a little rubbish, but I gotta say, I actually kind of thought they were okay. And he's kind of in the Morbius mode more than I thought. I thought he's only gonna be the kind of like the vampire face, a couple of times, but he's in it quite a lot, and I gotta say, I thought it kind of looks CGI still, but I still kind of quite enjoyed it. I quite like Jared Leto as Morbius, kind of somewhat understated, maybe a little bit too understated, to be honest with you. And I thought Matt Smith as his kind of best friend slash kind of rival was kind of enjoying kind of chewing the scenery. It is quite fast paced. I did enjoy some, I should say, the kind of the sensory effects. And again, some of the kind of things that I've been seeing criticised, I actually quite like the kind of the use of slow-mo to kind of like almost freeze frame certain kind of action sequences. I kind of quite liked it because you kind of got a good look at what was kind of going on then, rather than it just be a kind of blur of kind of CGI effects and things like that. So it was quite, it was quite fast paced. So I kind of enjoyed the evolution of this kind of the character. There's a lot of nods to other kind of vampire kind of stories. Dracula, obviously, with the kind of the ship, kind of the unmanned ship washing up. It's cool. It's called the name of this ship was a reference to the director of Nosferatu. There's some Lost Boys references and things like this. There's a few references to kind of quite a lot of kind of vampire lore and stuff like that. Not too much connective tissue with kind of the Spider-Man stuff. There's a little bit. We won't talk about the end credit scene, so that's kind of a spoiler here. But yeah, the overall pacing, like I generally thought was pretty good. And for the most part, I found it an entertaining movie. It's not deep, it's not particularly original, but I found it entertaining. So Guy, what did you not like about it? What kind of things would you say didn't work for you?
I thought like sort of the rivalries between like him and Matt Smith, there wasn't really like they were friends and all of a sudden they were fighting each other, and there wasn't really any reason for them to do it.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a lot of story behind it. And in the middle bit, there's a lot of more from Matt Smith really, but there's a lot of chest thumping and screaming, a bit over the top, a bit too much for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So from that, I would suppose there's not a real. They don't really explore a good enough reason for I think Matt Smith's character to go evil, if that makes sense, and like pretty damn evil, to be honest. I mean, we understand that they have this kind of this bloodlust, so to speak, and that was always an interesting thing in the comics with Morbius, because he doesn't want to do bad, but he's kind of he has this urge to kind of feed on blood, and this is obviously what in the comics at least kind of gets him in the tangle with Spider-Man. But he's doesn't want to necessarily do evil, but he ends up hurting people sometimes. And it's Matt Smith's character, as you say, he just kind of goes into it. And I understand what they were going for with that, but I think there could have been a bit more context into their kind of personalities and why, because you thought they start off as quite kind of similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the only thing you see is at the start he gets bullied, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's the only sort of evidence.
There's one kind of scene. I think it needs a little bit more than that, if I'm honest with you. I thought the love interest angle was kind of, she didn't really have a lot to do, to be honest with you. She was just there to kind of have a kind of a female lead, and I didn't really think had a, typical kind of like sort of girlfriend, co-worker kind of role. I think maybe the kind of the FBI agents had a little bit too much screen time.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought they were good at the start, and when they sort of lost pace of him, they're kind of like just there, weren't they?
Yeah. I think this movie could have been a really good horror film had it lent into the kind of, obviously it wants to be a kids film. If it had lent into more of the adult stuff, it's obviously quite muted in regards to kind of the gore and things like that. Not a lot of kind of blood. You think with a vampire movie, it kind of, the whole thing is kind of drinking blood, and obviously I don't want to kind of rewrite a film and kind of say, oh, this is what it should have done, but I think it could have been a pretty, had they could have chosen to go more of an adult R-rated route, I think it would have been, a really enjoyable film, kind of maybe like the original Blade, but as it stands, it's a little muted. And it does feel a little bit kind of chopped up in regards to some of the editing. They've obviously, if you've seen the trailer, there's a lot of footage which is kind of edited out, but there it is. So what would you rate it out of 10, Guy?
Yeah, I'll give it a 7 though. I quite enjoyed it. It's nice to refreshing to have a decent vampire movie out there.
So a 7 from Guy. I want to go with a 6. I do think this is it's still an enjoyable film, certainly flawed. Maybe not the completely original, but if you like, as I say, the original kind of Ghost Rider movie, and you enjoyed that one, I feel in regards to kind of tone, it's very similar to that, and even some of the kind of the aesthetics, I would say, is fairly similar. So a 6 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.